grade in this class is going to come from participating in discussion boards. There are discussion boards that will be about a number of different topics, and as you come to that assignment, you'll need to make sure that you pay attention to what the assignment is asking you to do so that you make sure that you participate in the way that you're supposed to. So a couple things though I want to talk about are just in general about being part of a discussion and what makes something a good discussion. So there's two real parts to the discussion. There's your initial post that you're going to make, and this is usually related directly to whatever prompt I've given you. So to a question or something like that, where you're going to be responding to a prompt. And so you want to make sure that the first thing you want to make sure is that your post is relevant to that topic. So if I ask you to post something about a current event, please don't tell me about something that happened 50 years ago, because that wouldn't be considered current. If I ask you to talk about different kinds of techniques for something, then make sure that you're responding about one of those techniques. So you want to make sure that you're relevant. You want to be accurate. You want to make sure that you've looked up information about this, not that you're just going and finding something that you can copy and paste. Remember your thoughts, but make sure that they're accurate. You want to use names and be specific in your content. So if they're talking about particular people in scientific history, about how they've accomplished something or what they've accomplished, make sure that you're talking specifically about that person, that you're using their first and last name, and that you're using dates and specifically what they did. Your post should be inviting participation from your classmates, because for all of them, if it's a discussion, that means that you all are going to be interacting on the discussion board. If it's a reflection for the teacher, that will be set up differently, and that's where it's just for me then. That's a you telling me what you learned or what you know kind of thing, but the discussion is really you having a conversation with other people. So make sure that you're leaving room in that invitation for participation from other people in that. So ending with a question or something like that, so that other people have something to talk about with what you've actually discussed. You want to make sure that you've proofread your work. We're looking for spelling errors. We're looking for grammar errors. I had people who were sending me things last semester that had periods like every 3 words or something like that. Please don't do that. We want to make sure that we're using proper grammar, that we're using proper punctuation. You should still be using sentences and that sort of a thing. This next one where it says know where you are in cyberspace, this means that we want to make sure that how you're looking at your audience, and that you're actually talking in a way that's appropriate to the audience. It's a lot like language arts, where you have to know your audience when you're writing a paper. It's the same thing here. So we're in a class situation. We are not on a discussion board for games or for something else that you might, it's not a Facebook post, it's not an Instagram, or it's not anything like that where you're just tagging a picture or something like that. This is classwork. So this is you talking about something class related with your peers. You want to make sure that you're making yourself look good online, and a lot of these other things that are above it will help to make you look good online. You want to look like you are an intelligent human being who knows what you're talking about, and that you can have an intelligent conversation with others. So please keep that in mind as you're making your posts. You'll also want to keep that in mind as you're responding to the posts of your classmates. So first and foremost, you'll see on here is about being kind. Remember that you're speaking to other human beings. Whether they're online or they're sitting next to you in class, they may be somebody you've never talked to before, but you want to make sure that you're following those appropriate standards of behavior that we would use in real life. You want to talk nicely. You don't say mean things. We shouldn't be using profanity or anything like that. We want to make sure that we're following the golden rule, if you will, to speak to others as you would like them to speak to you. You want to make sure that you're forgiving of other people's mistakes. Even if they proofread, they may spell something wrong, or they may use a word wrong. That shouldn't be the topic of your post back to them. The topic of your post should be about the content that they're talking about, not the way that they said it. So don't nitpick at one another. Make sure that you're having a relevant discussion. And then you're sharing what you know. So if they say something and they've missed part of the concept, or there's something else that you could add to it, make sure that you're adding to that in a kind and charitable way. So when we look at what's non-negotiable, as we look at how am I going to get my points for my discussion board post, first and foremost, Down at the bottom of your assignment in Canvas, it always has a rubric. I strongly encourage you on every single assignment, you read what the assignment says, you see what the requirements are, and you look at the rubric because your instructor will be grading you based on what the rubric says. So make sure that you're answering the question as thoroughly and accurately as you can because that's going to be part of the rubric. You can't answer these are not single sentence sort of things, it's not single word, and it's definitely not a phrase, right? Because we're using correct grammar. If you're doing it in one sentence, like you're giving me a definition basically, or you're giving your classmates a definition, that's not being thorough. Thorough means that you're explaining something, that you're giving examples of something, okay? But we also don't want dissertations. We're not looking for you to write 5 pages on the subject. We're looking for a few sentences that thoroughly describe. Don't say the same thing over and over again. Don't just rewrite it, okay? Make sure you're saying new things. Once again, we're using correct grammar. Just a little note about, using texting language. Please don't say like use capital U, capital R for UR. Actually write out the word, please. I expect to see complete sentences that start with a capital, have a subject and a verb and a whole complete thought, and have punctuation at the end. Please make sure that you're communicating well, because if you start doing things that are choppy in there, then some of your meaning gets lost, and then they don't know what to respond to because they don't really understand what you've said. So when you're replying, these are the 3 things that you have to do, at least one of them. So you need to either add information to the post. Once again, you'll see on all of these, they have to be accurate, they have to be relevant, they have to be content related. It should all go back to that original prompt. Make sure that you're on task and that you're on topic. If you're not on topic, you don't get points for it. You can't just say, hey, yeah, I really liked your post. That's not relevant and that's not on topic. You need to talk about what they posted, okay, and be specific and detailed. I agree with, I disagree with, what about this? You could ask them a question about it, okay, but you want to make sure that everything is accurate and content related, that it's school appropriate, and that once again you're being kind to one another, you're following those respectful guidelines that we just set forth in the previous slide. If you're ever in doubt, ask first if you're not sure if it's the right thing to post.